Then we'll have questions at the end. That can be for those of you who are virtually joining us. We can take your questions in the chat box, and we'll have time to bring them into this format. And then locally also, if you have any questions, you can come here and you can ask directly to Ajahn. I've specifically requested that this evening we dedicate our merit to any of our friends or family or community members that have been lost due to COVID. And so we'll have a chance to, at the end, mention some names. I have one name already and a couple other names that I would like to add. So in case you have any one you would like to mention at the end, we will be dedicating the merit and mentioning their names here. And please do put it in the chat box too. We want to be a link for you, especially since we have this great opportunity to be under this Bodhi tree. So just a brief introduction about Ajahn Achalo. He was born in Australia in 1972, and he has ordained as a Theravada bhikkhu under Ajahn Liam at Wat Nong Pat Pong, the monastery that was founded by Venerable Ajahn Chah. Although most of his training has taken place in Thailand, Ajahn Achalo has also lived in several international forest monasteries in the Ajahn Chah lineage. And during his years of training, he has received personal guidance from many great masters, including Ajahn Sumitta, Ajahn Pasano, Ajahn Jayasarro, and Ajahn Kalayano. And for most of his bhikkhu life, he is considered Tan Ajahn Anan, the abbot of Wat Marp Jan, to be his principal mentor. And he also mentions that he has found that the Dalai Lama's instructions to be of great value in his practice. So this short introduction to Venerable Ajahn Achalo, it's really a great honor and privilege for us to be inviting you back into this program and for us to all benefit from his wise reflection tonight. Thank you.
Buddho, Buddho, Buddho. Hello. Okay. It's my honor and pleasure to be able to offer some encouragement. This evening it was suggested that we practice meditation together. So I'd like to start. You sit with a fairly straight posture. Close your eyes. When we practice meditation, very important to be clear what our intention is, because the mind is the forerunner, and having right intention, clear intention, will help the meditation to go more smoothly. So our intention is to cultivate mindfulness, being aware of feelings in the body and feelings associated with the breath. And then we will also do some loving kindness meditation. So we just drop that in awareness that that's what we're going to be doing, setting the intention. So sit with a fairly straight posture, close the eyes. The first minute or so, it's good to take a couple of deep in and out breaths. You breathe in deeply, just suggesting to the mind that we're going to be paying attention to these feelings associated with breathing. And then when we breathe out, a deep breath out, training ourselves to put things down. So on the in-breath, we're bringing in fresh, new energy. And on the out-breath, putting other things down. For wherever people are in the world, some people, it will be early in the morning. So on the in-breath, we're waking up. On the out-breath, we're breathing out the tiredness, the dullness, the fuzziness. For people who've had a full and busy day, people meditating in the afternoon, the evening, when bringing in fresh energy, we might be a bit tired, mentally tired, from a lot of work, a lot of thinking. But on the out-breath, we're putting down whatever the day was. It's the past already. Breathing in deeply, arriving in the moment, knowing the feelings of the breath, and breathing out, putting the past down. Next, I'd like to do a gentle body sweeping, just becoming aware of the body in the sitting posture. We take a more broad meditation object first, and then we slowly refine it. So we start with a broad sense of the body. So knowing the feelings on the top of the head, just placing the awareness there and noticing if there's any tingling or sensations. And bringing the awareness down the sides of the head, over the ears, and the back of the head, and just knowing any feelings on the skin, and down the back of the neck. Now bringing the awareness to the forehead area, simply placing mindful awareness and knowing any feelings, sweeping that awareness down the eye area, noticing if there's any tension and consciously relaxing. Relaxing the eyes, relaxing the forehead. A lot of people frown in that area. Making sure forehead, eyes are relaxed. Sweeping the awareness over the nose, the lips, the cheeks, the chin, front of the neck. Just with a broad awareness, knowing the shoulder area, sweeping the awareness down the back, from the top of the back, middle of the back, the lower back, and now the area of the buttocks, the bottom, just feeling the body, the pressure of sitting on a mat or a chair, knowing that feeling of the body sitting. And bringing the awareness to the bottom of the neck and the front part of the body, sweeping the awareness over the chest area, abdomen area, lower abdomen, down over the groin, and once again simply knowing the feeling of the body sitting, feeling those feelings under the body where the body touches the surface below. It's a way to feel more present in the body, grounded. Now bring the awareness to the top of the right shoulder, and sweeping the awareness down the arm, knowing any feelings, the inside of the elbow, the outside of the elbow, lower part of the arm, the palm, the thumb, the back of the hand, sweeping the awareness down the fingers. And then just knowing the feeling for a few moments in the palm of the right hand. And coming to the left shoulder. Sweeping the awareness down the upper arm, the left arm, inside, outside, inside and outside of the elbow. And sweeping the awareness down the lower part of the right arm, knowing the feelings at the back of the left arm, the feelings in the left palm, the feelings in the thumb, and over the fingers, from the base of the fingers to the tips. Sweeping the awareness now from the right hip area down over the upper part of the right leg, underside of the right leg down towards the knee, the inside of the leg, just knowing sensations in the body, on the area of the skin. And sweeping the awareness from the knee, down the shin, down the back of the calf, underneath and above the ankle, knowing the feelings on the top of the right foot, the bottom of the right foot, the sole, the heel, the sole, and then the tips of the toes, down to the tips of the toes. Just aware of the right foot area in the body, in the present moment. And gently bring that awareness to the bottom, left buttocks, and sweeping the awareness over the left thigh, under the left thigh, over the left knee and behind the knee, sweeping the awareness down the shin area from knee to ankle, calf, back of the knee to the ankle. Knowing the feelings on the top of the left foot, knowing the feelings underneath the left foot, the ball, the sole there, heel, sweeping the awareness, tips of the toes, and the awareness from the tips, the base of the left toes to the tips of the toes. Now bringing the awareness to the tip of the nose. Setting the intention now to know the feelings involved with the natural breath. For the first couple of minutes we're going to know the entire body of breath, so knowing the feelings involved at the tip of the nose, down through the chest and into the abdomen. Sometimes noting can be helpful. We note 1 at the nose, 2 at the chest, 3 at the abdomen. On one in-breath, 1, 2, 3. On the out-breath, noticing the feelings in the abdomen, the chest area and the nose. 3, 2, 1. Breathing in, knowing the feelings. 1, 2, 3. Breathing out, knowing the feelings. 3, 2, 1. Just do that for a few minutes. Knowing the feelings involved in the natural breath, the entire body of breath, beginning, middle and end of an in-breath, space, beginning, middle and end of an out-breath, space. Next we choose whatever of those areas, the tip of the nose, the top of the lip, or the chest, or the abdomen, wherever it is that you feel that you can most consistently know the feelings of the in and out breathing, you choose one area. Same as before, we try to know all of the feelings involved at the beginning, the middle, the end of the in-breath, and keeping the base of the awareness in that same area, in the spaces, and then knowing the beginning, middle and end of an out-breath. We do the body sweeping, arriving in the moment. We do the whole body of the breath gently, inclining the mind to having a more subtle field of awareness, and then we watch, observe the breath in a more refined space. Some people can feel the breath more easily at the tip of the nose area, other people it's the chest area, other people it's the abdomen area. We know from simply practicing which of those spaces. For myself it tends to be in the chest area. Just knowing the feelings of expansion, feelings of contraction, of each in-breath, sense of expansion, in each out-breath, sense of contraction. Some people use the words rising, falling. The intention is to simply know the feelings as they are, as they change. A consistent presence of mind, aware of feelings. Ana, Pana, Sati. Ana is the in-breath. Pana is the out-breath. Sati is mindfulness. Mindfulness of in and out breathing. In the Thai tradition, we use the syllables Buddho in conjunction with knowing the breath. Lord Buddha awakened through practicing right mindfulness. Lord Buddha was fully mindful, fully awake, perfectly aware as to the nature of reality. So it's a wonderful positive affirmation, wonderful connotations as we train in being more wakeful, being more aware, being more mindful, cultivating truth discerning awareness, which is the antidote to delusion and ignorance. So knowing the feeling of the breath, we can use the syllable breathing in, gentle mental recitation, Ut. Breathing out, gentle mental recitation, Do. Just this little bit of thought activity is very helpful for restraining the thinking mind. So often thinking about other places, other people, the past, the future, thoughts associated with sensual pleasures, thoughts associated with irritation, liking, not liking, but when we place the awareness on the breathing, pick up these syllables, it reminds us, right now I'm being mindful of breathing, right now I'm cultivating wakefulness, awareness, peacefulness. And breathing in, knowing all of the feelings, beginning, middle and end of an in-breath, Put, space. Breathing out, knowing all of the feelings of an out-breath, beginning, middle and end, Do, space. Please do that for the next few minutes. Breathing in, Put. Breathing out, Do. As we train in clarifying mindful awareness, making it more steady, consistent, stable, with regards to sounds, we try to just be aware of hearing, not actually listening, because we're giving the interest to the feelings of the breathing, giving the attention to the feelings of the breathing so that when other things impinge, we don't give them the interest, we just know them with some detachment. It's just hearing, knowing the feeling of the in-breath, but knowing the feeling of the out-breath, do. Similarly with thoughts, when we meditate, we have a different relationship to them. It's normal, if you've had a busy day, for there to be thought activity. Normally we'll pick up a thought, think the next thought, identify with the thought. Thoughts feed more thoughts. When practicing meditation, we're just knowing a thought as a thought, not I, not mine. Simply knowing thinking. Knowing it, allowing it to arise and cease, not picking it up, not thinking the next thought. Giving the interest, the attention to the feelings of the breath. Breathing in, but, breathing out, do. Lord Buddha said that breath meditation was the crown jewel in the crown of all meditation objects. It's worth considering why. The wonderful thing about breath meditation is breath is always with you. You don't need anything special. It's right there. You can pick it up as your object of mindfulness the moment you wake up. You can be mindful of breathing until the moment you sleep. As we train in mindfulness of breathing, we'll learn to observe when the mind is agitated, the breath will be heavier, faster. When the mind is peaceful, the breath will be more refined, shallower, less frequent. And this helps us keep an eye on our mind states. We'll notice if we become habituated to having some peacefulness. We'll notice when the mind's beginning to get agitated and can actually use the breath to restrain the mind, pacify, calm the mind down. In meditation, as the mind becomes peaceful, the breath becomes more refined, the spaces become longer, and we have to attenuate the awareness so that the awareness becomes more refined, to know those more refined feelings. And we have to be more still, more settled, to stay in that same place, in those spaces, allowing the mind to rest. It's a very interesting experience of giving attention, paying attention, so actually doing something, being mindful of the breath. But as the energy is restrained from scattering, energy builds up in the mind, good energy, a palpable sense of presence of mind, awareness develops, and then one rests in that. So while we're being aware of the breath, we're also resting. And the mind is able to reclaim and recharge some of the scattered energies. And knowing the feelings of the breath, knowing the space, keeping the mind present in the parameters of the body, allowing it to brighten. Many different analogies. We come to sit meditation if there's a lot of thinking, restlessness, worry, craving. The mind is somewhat dark. As we train in mindfulness, the 5 hindrances to peacefulness, recognize them, pacify them, put them down, the mind becomes brighter. This is something we can experience as feelings. As feelings of agitation, feelings of the mind feeling somewhat oppressed, energies banging around. And then as we give the interest and awareness to the breathing, and those more coarse energies, one can feel them being pacified, settling down, becoming less wild. And then different feelings, feelings of calm, coolness, fullness, peacefulness. And we allow the mind to rest, knowing the in-breath ut, knowing the out-breath do, cultivating mindful awareness, resting in mindful awareness. Breathing in put, breathing out do. We'll do some loving kindness meditation in about 5 minutes, but I'd like to encourage you to just be with the breath, be with the Buddha, enjoy taking some quiet time to rest inwardly, not creating a self or others or a world, coming inwards, just knowing Buddho. When we're practicing breath meditation, we're restraining the mind gently, simply by picking up a meditation object. Other objects are able to fall away. And in doing this, we're not creating self or other or a world, just the present moment and feelings can be a very peaceful practice when people cultivate it. People can develop insight. There's various ways to use the breath meditation as a samatha practice, where we're interested to use it to calm the mind down. And it can lead to apana samadhi or jhana. The breath can lead the mind to such a peaceful state that the peace itself becomes the object in absorption in samadhi. The breath becomes finer and finer, the spaces between the breath longer and longer, and then the breath appears to disappear. But what actually occurs is the mind gathers and collects inward and loses its interest in the coarser sense bases and takes peacefulness as its object for a period of time. But one can also use breath meditation to train in insight by simply noticing the way every single breath is different. You notice the changing and the cessation, especially the cessation, beginning, middle, and end, space, beginning, middle, and end, space. Many times in the suttas, Lord Buddha describes somebody's enlightenment experience. Such and such a bhikkhu saw all that is the nature has the nature to arise, has the nature to cease. It's a simple enough thing to understand as a concept, but when we think about it, we don't get enlightened. Why is that? It's because those venerables had a profound quality of stillness and clarity in their mind, so that when they saw cessation, it was with true insight, a quality of insight that destroyed the latent tendency to grasp at solidity and permanence. And breath meditation can help us to cultivate such clarity and such steadiness of mind, and we train in noticing a cessation of an in-breath, cessation of an out-breath. There's a little birth, life, aging and death in every in-breath and every out-breath, and every space in between as well. Each of those spaces has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then there's another breath. But because we do have to navigate the world of conventions, the conventional self and other, Lord Buddha also praises the practice of loving kindness, where we do indulge a wholesome sense of self, when we radiate loving kindness inward and radiate loving kindness outward. So moving to this next meditation object, still using the breath. On the in-breath we make the wish, may I be well. On the out-breath, may I be happy. Sometimes to give these words meaning, it's useful to consider what would it mean to be truly well? What would it mean to be truly happy? And that's what we wish ourselves. To be truly well would mean to be free of delusion, free of confusion, free of compulsive energies, grasping for, grasping not for. And breathing in, may I be well. And breathing out, may I be happy. Other people find it more effective to just go for a feeling rather than the concept, just setting the intention to offer a quality of unconditional love, a quality of acceptance. That's what may I be well means to some people. Breathing in, may I be well. Whatever the situation is with the body and mind, allowing it as it is, accepting it, offering a quality of loving friendliness, goodwill, non-contentiousness, not contending. Breathing in, may I be well, offering love. Breathing out, may I be happy. Trying to hold this divine emotion, pure goodwill, pure loving friendliness, just holding it in the body and mind. The words are like a suggestion. The intention is divine emotion, a pure emotion, a pure quality of love, goodwill. Breathing in, may I be well. Breathing out, may I be happy. Loving kindness and compassion have a very close relationship. They're both divine abidings, can both be cultivated immeasurably, both praised by Lord Buddha. We can add some compassion. Breathing in, may I be well. Breathing out, may I be free from suffering. Breathing in, may I be well, may I be happy. Breathing out, may I be free from suffering. Establishing an attitude of loving kindness towards oneself, the conventional being, is a tremendous support on the path to transcending, grasping itself. Lord Buddha describes in the 11 Benefits of Loving Kindness Sutta that for those who practice loving kindness, the mind concentrates easily. A concentrated mind is a necessary foundation. A mind with some steadiness, collectedness is the foundation for the insights that will liberate us from the conceit, I am. My teacher Ajahn says, it's like we have to be a deva first. You have to have a deva-like mind. That's the foundation to have transcendent insight into not-self. And the metta practice helps one to maintain that resilient, steady, consistent well-being. Having loving kindness established firmly inwardly is what enables us to be able to radiate it outwardly. We do have to charge up in the very center so that it can be radiated outwards. So one has to be sincere. You have to mean it. Breathing in, may I be well, not holding anything back, truly offering loving kindness. May I be well, may I be happy, holding the warmth of unconditional love in the heart. Breathing out, may I be free from suffering, just as you would wish all beings to be free from suffering. Don't forget this one. Breathing in, may I be well. Breathing out, may I be happy. Breathing in, may I be well. Breathing out, may I be free from suffering. I'd like to suggest that you bring a couple of other people to mind now. Include others in the heart of loving kindness. It might be a few of your teachers, or your parents, closest friends. Just see a few people before you, smiling And breathing in, may I be well. Breathing out, may these people, dear to me, may they be well, may they be happy. So inwardly, generating and radiating loving kindness inwardly. On the out breath, radiating it outwards. On the in breath, generating it inwards. On the out breath, radiating outwards. Breathing in, may I be well, may I be happy. Breathing out, may these dear people be well, be happy. Going to take a big leap now, understanding that all beings everywhere, in their own way, aspire to be happy. Breathing in, may I be well, may I be happy. And breathing out, may all beings be well, may all beings be happy. Breathing in, may I be well, may I be happy. Breathing out, may all beings be well, may all beings be happy. Now coming back to the perception of just this one conventional being, breathing in, may I be well. Breathing out, may I be happy. Breathing in, may I be well. Breathing out, may I be happy. And in doing this kind of practice, we are making a commitment to try to take care of our life, try to take care of the body and mind. So whatever we need to do to be well, to be happy, then we commit to those skillful disciplines and healthy boundaries. Making a kind of a pledge to yourself, I'm going to take care of this experience, this opportunity. Breathing in, may I be well. Breathing out, may I be happy. And for the last 5 minutes, I'd like to return to just the awareness of the breath. Many people find that after a period of metta meditation, it's easier to be with the breath. As the Metta Sutta says, those who cultivate loving kindness, the mind concentrates more easily, so we become skilled at picking up a wholesome, skillful sense of self and putting it down. Just awareness of feelings, awareness of the in-breath, but awareness of the out-breath, do. No me, no my, no I, no other. Just the in-breath, but the out-breath, do. Arising, staying for some time, ceasing, space. Arising, staying for some time, ceasing, space. And I believe we're going to have some dedications now that people's minds are nice and calm and collected, a little bit more powerful. We can direct specific dedications. Wang Mo, I think you had some names you wanted to read, people who were affected by the COVID situation, who may have passed, and specifically dedicate merits to those beings. May they attain an auspicious rebirth and be free from the suffering.
I will be mentioning a few names that if we could please keep in mind. Venerable U Nyanananda, Sayadaw, the President of the International Tipitakadhara Chanting Council, who passed away 6 months ago in Myanmar. It was a great Sayadaw who did many activities here in Bodh Gaya and was like a Sangha father for all of us. Venerable Tipitakadhara, number 12, who recently passed in Myanmar. He was a Tipitakadhara who knew the entire Pali Canon by memory, and he passed due to blood cancer, and he came and gave Dhamma Talks several times on the importance of remembering the words of the Buddha. Sayadaw, may he rest in peace. A friend in Dhamma, Mr. Radhasham Saraf, who did many good activities in supporting the Dhamma. He was the founder and owner of the Yak and Yeti Hotel in Nepal, Kathmandu, and his grandson is a friend of ours. He recently passed. May he rest in peace. I also received a name of Raj Kumar Shakya from Patan, from Venerable Ajahn Achalo, who did some very beautiful work and just recently passed away. May he rest in peace. These are the names that come to mind, but over the coming days, if others would like to give me names to remember, at the end of the Dhamma talk, we'll be happy to announce their names. Thank you, Bhante.
We may have some questions now, I think.
I also have another person's name, Larry Winston Albright. He passed away last month from COVID, a kind and gifted artist and mentor. May he rest in peace. I will now turn to our local audience here. If anyone would like to ask a question, please come to the microphone.
Ajahn, some teachers suggest short periods of meditation, 5 minutes or 3 minutes, done many times. And other traditions have long 1 hour, 2 hour meditation sessions. I wonder if you can comment on this difference in style.
So, I think if a person has practiced a lot already, then the frequent small meditations are effective, because one has... I was talking last night that mindfulness, ordinary mindfulness is fuzzy for most people, and there's this idea of just be mindful, just be mindful. But if the mindfulness that you're working with isn't strong, if the mindfulness that one is working with is affected by the 5 hindrances most of the time, then one can be mindful. Like what my teacher explains is that if one's quality of mindfulness is really good, Thanajanan says, when we place our mindful awareness on that thought, it will drop away. If there's a kilesha or a hindrance, when one applies mindfulness to it, it's pacified. That's what good mindfulness can do. So just be mindful as you order another pizza, just be mindful as you watch Netflix isn't practice. It's a kind of a hopeful, positive affirmation, but I don't believe it's cutting into ignorance. But for people who have done, for example, the 3-year, 3-month retreats several times, a practitioner like that who has generated a strong and resilient and consistent mindfulness, that person might become busy and might be able to recharge that through small sessions. Then I think that's the type of person who can use that approach. So for myself, in my experience, I like to speak from my experience because that's what I know. If I do 4 or 5 sessions in my monastery, I can maintain a resilient, happy, fairly stable, friendly disposition. If those are like half-hour, 45-minute sessions. But if I want to experience what I would consider to be deeper samadhi and a genuine level of insight that's beginning to glimpse ultimate reality, then I myself, as a practitioner of 26 years, would need to be doing 8 hours a day for at least 10 days. That's my experience of what I need to do to get my samadhi and insight to a different level. So, yeah.
Venerable, I am Rajesh Baud from Bodh Gaya. I am practicing meditations for more than 20 years, but most of the time I keep myself protected from mosquitoes. So when I was doing meditation here, so I could not do properly because of mosquito bites. And what could be done? Because when anger arises, I can control, I can note, and it fades. So similarly, other like any distraction. But when mosquito is biting, it is very difficult. And also I have no loving kindness for mosquitoes. Please suggest.
So, yes. Well, traditionally in Thailand, at sunset and early in the evening, there are a lot of mosquitoes. And Thailand is a place which has malaria and dengue fever. So the forest monks actually have an umbrella and they have a mosquito net. So during the times when there are a lot of mosquitoes, we protect ourselves from them. And so nobody's saying to take being bitten by mosquitoes as a practice. It can be dangerous. So personally, I use Sofel. It's Pratai Kong Rutak, no? This is a mosquito repellent from Thailand, very good, lasts about 2 hours. So just put it on very lightly, and the old kaidi nair. And I have a fan blowing, so yeah, it's okay to manage your... it's obviously it's a delicate line when one starts trying to manage the amount of suffering, but you know, working with feelings in the body when you're going to sit for an hour or more, there's going to be some pain to work with. Working with the noises, there's potentially some irritation to work with. We have enough to work with, and so I myself use mosquito repellent. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions locally here? Please feel free. This is an opportunity to ask Ajahn about meditation practice. Okay. In case you would like to translate your question into English and you're only speaking Hindi, we have Rajesh who is happy to translate for you. If you have a question in Hindi, you're welcome to also ask a question. Do you have a question? Oh, no, he's doing something else. I have a question about when observing the breath and there's a tension to the in and the out breath, but sometimes you're so absorbed in deep concentration that the thought of the breath in and out doesn't even arise, and then you wake up from that experience. So sort of the concentration is so, it feels kind of obviously you're absorbed in it, and so I'm kind of wondering how to, is that an issue of not being strong awareness?
So it could be potentially one of two things. So if I would need to ask you, is there a palpable sense of peace, clarity, and of knowing in the experience? Or is it more of like an experience of just disappearing and then coming to again?
It's almost like you're completely out in the dark, like there's no sensation at all. It's like you're fully in something covered. It's like you're,
Right.
hopefully is that ignorance? I'm wondering, is that deep ignorance?
Well, there's a thing that's called bhavanga citta, which is basically a bit like a sleep-like state. But there is some mindfulness and there is some peacefulness. And the masters of Thailand say that it's better than thinking a lot. At least the mind rests. But it's not yet what they would call the appana samadhi, where the mind has used the breath to go to an absorbed state. So in a time, quite possibly with yourself, when you're busy and thinking about a lot of things, the mind needs to rest. So it might be the case that the mind just takes some rest. But if it's an absorption related to the breathing, the sense of presence and peace is very profound. And when you come out of that experience, you'll know that the mind was very still and very concentrated. With the other, which is the bhavanga citta, it's like you wake up and you'll feel refreshed, but it's a bit kind of like, where was I? What just happened? And that's a different experience.
How would you encourage the former so that you're more present with the breath. There's almost like a strengthening of something.
Right. So what I was talking about last night is the committing to doing it first thing in the morning. Then one makes a really strong commitment to the practice. So you get up, wash your face, brush your teeth, and you do your breath meditation without looking at any devices. You just do that first. So this is training the mind. This is important. I'm giving this a priority. I really want to know. I really want to cultivate awareness of breath. And I'm doing this. And then ideally 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and evening, at least half an hour. And then the mind will get used to its meditation object. It's like, oh, okay, we're doing that. It'll pick up the breath. And then you'll find that throughout the day, if you're not busy or if you're listening, you can also be aware of your breath while you're listening to someone's Dhamma talk or while you're listening to chanting. You can keep coming back to it throughout the day. And then the mind becomes familiar with and attenuated to knowing that object. But it takes training and consistency and giving it a priority. But I do think making a commitment to doing it first thing in the morning is a very powerful commitment. And if people do that, they tend to get better results.
Can you speak about sort of those who are getting close to their last breath? How does that...
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons I also like to do in conjunction with Buddho. So you've got the in-breath and the mental recitation Buddh, and you've got the out-breath and the mental recitation Do. So you've got 2 things happening. You've got the awareness of the breathing, and you've got this mental recitation. So if the breath is getting shallower and shallower and less, one can still be with Buddho. So one takes Buddho as the mental recitation and be with that instead of be with the peaceful awareness that knows the syllables Buddho rather than the feelings of the breath. So, yeah.
Rajesh?
Another thing is, if one becomes adept at breath meditation, Wangmo, the breath meditation will take the mind to peaceful states where the breath disappears. And so the practitioner appears to disappear. What I was saying was the mind is gathering and collecting inwards, and the mind loses its interest in the external sense spaces, and it picks up peacefulness as its object. So a diligent breath meditation practitioner has a lot of practice of the breath disappearing from awareness and of picking up peacefulness, so that if one is adept at that, at the time of death, the breath is gone, one picks up the peaceful awareness instead, no problem. Very good. So,
हेलो आचार्य वंदामी, हम मेडिटेशन का प्रैक्टिस करते हैं, लेकिन ऐसा होता है कि जब हम अपनी आंखें बंद करते हैं तो बहुत ज़्यादा नेगेटिव वाइब्रेशन आता है, और उस नेगेटिव वाइब्रेशन में सबसे ज़्यादा नेगेटिव बातें आता है, या फिर कोई पूर्व का घटना हो या फिर कोई ऐसा घटना होने वाला हो, इस प्रकार का संकेत मिलता है मेरे ब्रेन को, दिमाग को, और फिर हम मेडिटेशन के दरमियान ज़्यादा विचलित होते हैं. सो प्लीज़ आप गाइड करें.
Venerable, he is asking when he practices meditation, so many negative emotions, sensations come into his mind, and also fear. So he wants guidance.
Yeah. So it's actually the case that the negative emotions are already there, but the mindfulness is fuzzy, and there's a sense of distractedness, so one doesn't truly notice what one's experiencing. And many beginning meditators do have this experience of, it seems like since I started meditating there's more negative mind states, and actually one is simply seeing what has habitually been there more clearly, and it's normal. So this, what I was 15 minutes of the guided meditation I did was metta bhavana, where one actually picks up a wholesome and pleasant mind state, because this is something that we need to do to balance things out a bit more. We're experiencing hindrances, we're experiencing kilesas, we're experiencing confusion. So we take periods of time where we experience pleasant abiding, and that's like a wholesome support. And this is also very helpful with the fear as well. If one cultivates metta on a daily level, when there is fear, you can instantly radiate loving kindness to yourself when you're scared. During the time that you're scared, you're a being who has fear. So you can just go, okay, I'm scared, breathing in, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be well, may I be happy. And one supports oneself through that experience. Of course, later on, people can take their fear as something to work, because fear can also concentrate the mind. Like the great masters of Thailand would go to the cemeteries where the bodies were being burned so that they could look at their fear. Or they would go to the forest where the tigers were so that they could look at their fear, because that fear of death made them very circumspect and very calm. So one can use fear also. We learn how it works and how to work with it, how to use it.
बंते जी कह रहे हैं कि जब शुरू में मेडिटेशन करते हैं तो इस तरह की चीज़ें आती हैं हमारे मन में, तो हम लोगों को साथ में मेत्ता भावना भी करना चाहिए, अपने बारे में और दूसरों के बारे में मेत्ता भावना करना चाहिए. तो ये होता है सभी के साथ में, ये एक नॉर्मल है, ठीक है. और उसके बाद में कह रहे हैं कि थाईलैंड में क्या करते हैं लोग, यह इसको फियर को एक ऑब्जेक्ट के रूप में देख सकते हैं, ठीक है, यह नॉर्मल है. तो थाईलैंड में क्या करते हैं लोग कि जैसे शमशान घाट में गए, वहाँ लाशें जल रही हैं, तो वहाँ उसको देखते हैं ताकि अंदर में भय पैदा हो, और उसके ऊपर में माइंड को ऑब्जेक्ट के रूप में लगाकर उस पर भावना करते हैं ताकि हमारे मन से भाव खत्म हो गए. उसी तरह कभी कभी जंगल में गए, देखे वहाँ शेर है, तो शेर को देखने से डर होता है, तो देखने से डर को भी हम लोग ऑब्जेक्ट के रूप में देखते हैं. इस तरीक़ा से हम लोग प्रैक्टिस करेंगे. ये एक नॉर्मल चीज़ है, बहुत डिफ़िकल्ट नहीं है.
Ajahn, I have a question for you that was just arising. Could you share what you think noble silence means?
Well, if you ask English people, Australian people, American people, or German people, it means shut up and don't say anything. But if you ask Malaysians or Thai people, it means talking a little bit less than normal. But they can't do it, in my experience. Thais and they don't do. But if you're having a retreat-like circumstance, obviously if people talk less, it's helpful. So in most formal meditation retreats, they'll have a standard of noble silence. One of the main reasons to do that is speech is often creating a world and self and others. That our habitual way of perceiving the world. So you're having, people are still talking about, here, someone might be about to be having a kind of a spacious, peaceful experience where they're not constructing a self or I, and their friend comes and says, I need to talk to you, I'm really suffering about my daughter. And it brings them straight back to the, conditioned reality and self and others and dramas of samsara. So even if you have a room full of people, if they commit to just not talking, it's giving people the opportunity to develop insights into not self. But if everybody keeps talking about the usual stuff, that's going to be much, much harder. So that's why I think one of the true values of it is like when we're trying to cultivate more and more mindfulness, more and more mindfulness, more and more mindfulness, and trying to develop wisdom, what we're trying to see is the characteristic of anicchang, anicchang, anicchang. And when we see that characteristic of impermanence, 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 insights into not self. So it's like the self view, which is what the stream enterer sees through, is fed through ignorance and delusion. And when we keep applying mindfulness to it, mindfulness to it, mindfulness to the body as it is, as a body, feelings as feelings, thoughts as just thoughts, when we keep doing that, we're not feeding the self view. and the ignorance gets less and less and less. And then one is able to begin to have actual insights into not self, where one sees a deeper level of reality with the self view not there. And then when one has that experience, it's like, oh, look, it really is a view. It really is an habitual way of perceiving things that is not the ultimate truth. Like one can be sitting there and there's a body and there's sounds, but there's no feeling of being somebody, identifying with those things. And the kind of mind that has that experience is very peaceful, so it remembers it. It remembers what it was doing when it had that experience. And then when the feeling of self comes back again, there's that it becomes something that a person can become familiar with of, oh, the self views back again, I better be careful how I work with that, because that makes karma. And then it's kind of spacious awareness again. But if if one is constantly being invited into conversations about past, future, politics, relationships, challenges, it becomes harder to the mind to let go into those kind of spaces. So in our monasteries in the Western countries, they tend to have a winter retreat, 3 months, and they really try to keep the speech to a minimum during that time, because outside of that, for the rest of the 9 months, there's a lot of work projects, building projects, meetings, trying to make decisions on consensus and sharing invitation, teaching duties, etc. And in Thailand, the monks would go back to the kuti after the meal and kind of expected to spend quite a bit of time alone each day in the forest. So in Asia, the monks can get more quiet time every day. In the more kind of sophisticated, developed world, they actually have to make times where they agree to talk less. And of course the monks would wander off after 5 years in Thailand by themselves, often to a mountain top or near a remote village, so that they could have, or a cave, so that they could have that heightened sense restraint and less building up of a self in the world. So, yeah.
Thank you. That's very, very good. Did someone else want to come and ask a question?
Greetings, Ajahn. Your talk yesterday really motivated me, and I'm sure a lot of people here, to strengthen the practice.
Good.
Can you please explain on how the Anapanasati Sutta recitation helps in our practice, the breath meditation? Thank you.
Yeah. I think chanting of suttas, any of them really, but so at my monastery we would tend to chant the Dhammacakka Sutta once a week, and the Anatalakkhana Sutta maybe once a month, and the fire sermon maybe once a month. So chanting of suttas is Buddha Vajana. It's if one knows some Pali, then one can contemplate the themes. So what I recommend is, I don't know if you do know Pali. Do you know Pali? You know Pali. Okay, so if people know Pali, then actually recollecting those instructions while you chant it. So the Buddha says, when the breath is long, you know it's long. When the breath is short, you know it's short. And the way I interpret that what I interpret that as meaning is, you know the quality of the breath as it is in the moment. So you know what the breath is like as a felt experience. And but in general, I would think that doing the breath meditation is more helpful than reciting the sutta. But one recites the sutta as chanting can be, if you've had a busy day and you're scattered, chanting for half an hour places the mind on other objects, wholesome objects, reminds us of our practice and works as a really good primer or a transition into then doing the practice. So you do it, the recitation, but then you do the practice. So, maybe it takes about half an hour, does it? 20 minutes to half an hour? Yeah. So do that and then sit and then do Anapanasati for 2 hours. Then I think you'll get good benefits.
Thank you. There's a couple questions I'm going to take from the Zoom, and then I'll come back to you. There's a question here from LL. Dear Ajahn, how to build back my faith towards Theravada monks whom their actions has affected and much destroyed my sada, much due to past bad experience occurred. by having much anger and hatred, this actually also disturbed my meditation, which whenever I meditate, this deep anger and hatred causes me to have much difficulty to continue to meditate. I don't know how to overcome this. Please advise. Thank you. Sadhu, 3 times.
So it's quite a shocking thing for me to hear. Someone has anger and hatred towards Theravada monks. Because I know a lot of good ones, of course. So I know Theravada monks who are arahants. I know Theravada monks who are high-level bodhisattvas. I know Theravada monks who are stream enterers. I know Theravada monks who have jhana. I know hundreds of Theravada monks who are putting forth sincere efforts in their practice. So I think this person needs to be broaden their awareness of, when talking about Theravada monks, we're talking about what, 400,000 bhikkhus maybe? And to be mindful that there are still Aryans. And be careful, because it's like, I do know that in Thailand for the last 20 years there's been bad news about monks on the news every day. And when that's the case, it's really difficult. It's obviously affecting the faith of the younger generation. How can you have faith when you've seen bad news about monks on the news every day? It's actually a little bit irresponsible of the news media to only report the bad news, but that's what they do. And it's partly tied up with group karmas. That's the karma now. That's the part of the karma we have to work with. And it seems like in Thailand that those people who know good monks are the ones who still have faith. And a lot of people who don't know good monks, their faith is less and less. But among people who know good monks, their faith is very strong. So to be mindful, you know, I guess for myself, when I'm angry or disappointed and falling into hateful mind states, it's a bitter medicine to take, but one has to take it. The kind of monks you met was the karma you had. If you met monks who hurt you, you hurt people before. If you met a monk who betrayed your trust, you betrayed somebody's trust. I'm sorry, if you believe in karma, I do. That's what it was. Now, aiming hatred at that is not going to help that situation. Because you want to meet good monks and nuns, then you better be able to hold some of them with reverence. And then one makes an effort to seek out the good ones. And one also has to take a bit of responsibility. Like if some monks have been really harmful, there were probably signs. Like one is allowed to pay attention, and before one decides to support monks, one should be having a basic look at how do they live their life, what are they doing. Before making a lot of offerings, before becoming close, one should be, okay, what's this monk like? It's okay it's good to do a little bit of observation for a period of time before committing to support a bhikkhu or his monastery or his community. And so I guess probably this person needs to take some responsibility. There might have been some signs that they didn't pay attention to. And that's tough, isn't it? Taking responsibility is tough. And obviously one has to have loving kindness, but the person obviously recognizes the danger. That's why they're asking the question. And so I would, for myself, I would kind of try to put okay, that's the past. That's the past. I'm going to try to, that's already the past. Whatever it was, it's the past. And now, fortunately, because of social media and internet, one can listen to great teachings from great Theravadan masters. So for myself, Ajahn, my teacher, I believe, is a very pure-hearted, excellent bhikkhu. And that doesn't mean that they will never make mistakes, and it doesn't mean that all of their political views will be the same as ours. You know, there are, culturally, things are different. But at least in terms of his practice, his Dhamma, and his understanding and his generosity of sharing his understanding, he's a truly great and generous bhikkhu. And so he has a YouTube channel, Ajahn Dhamma, where his teachings are translated by his foreign students, excellent translations. So it's like, okay, give some attention, pay some respect to good ones, and try to forget the bad ones. And
thank you, Ajahn.
I hope she meets some nice monks. So.
Yeah, I
Shiva
hope
here.
so too. We all wish you to find a good teacher in Dhamma. There's one more question here in the chat box. Ajahn, can we do only metta meditation all the way to 4 jhanas and full liberation? If so, can Ajahn give us some guidance?
So, the 4th jhana, I don't have it, but from what I've heard about it, the 4th jhana is pure equanimity. So, as far as I'm aware, you can't take metta to the 4th jhana, but you can take metta to at least the first one. And it does say in the Visuddhimagga that taking metta as the main practice, that one can develop insight and be liberated. But it's not through metta, it's through the awareness of impermanence. So how it's described in that description is the practitioner is aware as the metta citta is experiencing kanika samadhi, and then the practitioner is aware as that samadhi goes from kanika to the neighborhood, and the practitioner is aware as the metta becomes the fully established metta jhana, and then the practitioner is aware as the mind moves from the metta jhana, and they're aware as it comes back into the neighborhood concentration of the absorption. And the insight occurs in noticing the changing of the mind as it absorbs into the metta citta and as it absorbs out of the metta citta. So it's like when it comes out of the jhana and out of upacara, coming down to a more ordinary level, one notices the changing, and that's the place where insight can be cultivated through cultivating metta to the point of jhanas. So yes, one can take metta. But when cultivating metta as the main practice, Lord Buddha did say there is the near and far enemies. When we take metta as the main practice, the near enemy is affection. And then the affection can go into lust. So one has to have a look. Is there increasing affection, meaning kind of a grasping affection, not goodwill to all beings, like I really like that one. I really feel loving kindness to that one. Yeah. Then one has to be mindful, is the near enemy creeping in? Because as it's normally taught is in the Thai Theravada forest tradition, is that we need a group of practices. We need to be aware of death and impermanence, aware of the nature of the body and elements, as well as anapanasati, buddhanusati, and the metta. It's normally 5 practices that we balance each other out.
Ajahn, could I ask you a question following your explanation? I'm always very struck by this explanation. You say you should notice as the metta citta begins or metta citta ends. Who is noticing? Surely the citta is noticing.
Yeah.
So the citta is observing the citta?
Well, mindfulness. So it's mindful awareness. And yeah, there is layers of consciousness, right? So you've got directed, focused thought, and you've got something that's aware of that. And you've got the concentrated state, and then during the concentrated state, there's just a kind of a knowing that the mind is peaceful. And that quality, when the mind comes out of that peacefulness, that the awareness should come back with a bit more palpable. There's less kind of mindful awareness in the absorption, because it's just mostly peace. But because one is cultivating mindful awareness, and one was aware up to the point of the absorption, one's habit of that awareness coming back, when the mind comes out of the concentrated state, the awareness comes back. And then noticing the changing texture of the mind as it goes from a more refined, radiant state down to a more ordinary state. That's where the insight occurs.
So Bhante, what is the difference between samadhi and jhana?
Yeah, well, they're just different words explaining the same thing. So, and I prefer collectedness, gatheredness, settledness, because it's not concentration. It's not a heady thing, and it's what occurs when you stop sending the mind out into concepts about the past and the future and thoughts about other people. It's what happens when you allow the mind to settle. It becomes still, and that is samadhi. And jhanas is becoming profound, so a person is putting a lot of effort into it, a practitioner is putting a lot of effort, particularly with meditation objects, and then deeper samadhi will arise. So,
Thank you, Bhante.
yeah.
There's a local participant.
Namaskar, Ajahn.
Jampan.
When the question is that when you're practicing meditation, and there will be the stage that things are collecting and it's still, then what's next? What to do?
Yeah. So stay still. Stay still. As long as the mind is deeply still and peaceful, stay still as long as it will stay still. And then it will move from that state by itself and become full of peacefulness to the degree that which it can, and then it will come out of that state. And then my teachers say that's the time to do the investigation. So that's the time that you might have a look at the parts of the body. Teeth. Place the awareness on the teeth and just know teeth according to their nature and see them as earth element. Place it on blood. Know it as water. And this can get very profound results. A lot of people after the peacefulness, I've done my meditation, they get up and they go to the fridge. That's not recommended. That is the time when the mind has less hindrances, more clarity, more presence of mind. That's the time when the mind is ripe to develop some insight. So that's the time, and it might be the case that your wise reflection, contemplation, investigation takes the mind into an even deeper state of peacefulness, if you're willing to just stay there and keep investigating. In recent history, it appears to be that the great masters in the Thai forest tradition, most of them seem to have attained to paths and stages of liberation through body contemplation. Lumpur Man, Lumpur Cha, Ajahn. People don't quite recognize just what a profound practice it is, but a lot of the identification with self is based in the body. So when a person really applies their mindful awareness to just knowing the parts of the body just as they are, the misapprehension, the delusion of self falls away. And then when the practitioner simply sees bones as bones, earth as earth, it uproots the self-view. The mind simply sees it's not a self, it's elements. It's,
There's one more question from the chat box from Kamala. When we made some mistakes in the past, do we have to confess the mistakes to others in order for bad karma to be cleaned, or is it enough if we can just acknowledge the faults and try not to make the same mistake again?
Yeah. I think it's enough if one knows one's made a mistake, recognizes the error, and sincerely determines not to do it again. I think the area where confession is helpful is if one has a habitual issue with repeating the same mistake. Then sometimes making a pledge to somebody else that I'm not going to do it, and making an agreement to someone else that you'll tell them if you do, that can be helpful. So basically confess it with, but the Buddha does say with confession, because the bhikkhus have a fortnightly confession where we must mention to a bhikkhu which rules we broke. And it's also said that one does it to a trusted companion. It's a friend, someone who you can trust. And in the confession process of the confession, one acknowledges fault, but one also resolves not to do it again. So if you go back in another fortnight and you've got the same offence, your friend might say to you, you did say 2 weeks ago that you weren't going to do this. And that's helpful. But if you made a mistake and you're quite sure you're not going to do it again, then yeah, set the intention not to do it again. Forgive yourself. Guilt isn't helpful. One has a sense of conscience, so one regrets, but one doesn't indulge heavy kind of self-loathing or beating oneself up. That's just more self-view. Leave the past behind and start sowing new causes.
Thank you. So I think that we've met every question in the chat box, and Thank you to all of the participants from around the world who are on our Zoom call. And thank you to all of the participants who are joining us in Bodh Gaya. And most especially, thank you to Ajahn, who shared with us this evening his insights and wise reflections on calming the mind into stillness. Thank you, Ajahn, for your very sincere and just sharing in practice in Dhamma with other venerable bhikkhus and nuns and lay disciples. Thank you, and I will ask the Bhante Ampul, to please do the last chanting for the monks. And please excuse Richard and I to be sitting here. We should be seated on the floor.
It's okay.
But Richard has a bad knee, and I'm keeping his company.
And you have a Zoom screen to
and
supervise.
I also have a Zoom screen, so I'm sorry if this looks like, I should be on the floor. But
okay.
Just to explain.
We understand.
Hello. Okay, just for me, like a few words for Ajahn Achalo. Normally we say his name is Ajahn Achalo, but we know that his last July 2021 he got promotion from the Thai king to be the Phra Vachira Yamuni. We call เจ้าคุณ Achalo. That is we know that when the bhikkhu or monks going to teach the meditation, to teach the people a lot, our Thai king will support, and then he got promotion, and then we call his name is เจ้าคุณ Achalo. But it's normally but the monk is normal because he's 25 vasa, for me is 26, and then he come to pay respect to me. Ajahn also 29 vasa, we are senior that. Then maybe after Ajahn Ampon will conclude and finish today, we yesterday also we blessing to him for he come to here. We call mudita to him also that. That's why I just say some word for mudita to Ajahn เจ้าคุณ Achalo.
And then we pay respects to the Buddha, the Bodhi tree, and then we pay respects to the senior bhikkhu, which will be this one, I think. 29 ใช่ไหมวันนี้ครับ
34 Pansa. And on behalf of ITTC, and we come to join yesterday and today. Thank you very much, Than Jakun. It's not only us, but our friends around the world listen from Bodh Gaya, the technique to training our mind to be peaceful, and technique for vipassana or samatha. On behalf of the listener today, thank you very much, and we praise for Puttachi Mongkol Khatha to you and to our friends around the world to be peaceful. ชยันโตโพธิยาโมเรสกยานังนันทิวัตโนเอวังตวังวิชโยโหหิชยาสุชยมังคะเลอปราชิตปัลลังเกสีเสปทเวโปคะเรอภิเสเกสัพพพุทธานังอาคาปัตโตปโมทติสุนัขขตังสุมังคลังสุปะพาทังสุโหทิตังสุขโนสุโมโหโตจะสุยิตัง พรหมจาริสุปัฏฐาคินังกายกัมมังวาจากัมมังปัฏฐาคินังปัฏฐาคินังมโนกัมมังปณิทิเทปัฏฐาคินาปัฏฐาคินานิกัตตวานรพันตัตเถปัฏฐาคิเนเตอัทธรัตถาสุจิตาวิรุณหาพุทธศาสเนอโรคาสุจิตาโหทัสหสัพเพหิยติพิเตอัทธรัตถาสุจิตาวิรุณหาพุทธศาสเนอโรคาสุจิตาโหทัสหสัพเพหิยติพิเตอัตตรัตถาสุจิตาวิรุณหาพุทธศาสเนอโรคาสุจิตาโหทัสหสัพเพหิยติพิปวัตุสัพพมังคลังราคันตุสัพพเทวตาสัพพพุทธานุภาเวนัสทธาโสติปวันตุเตภวตุสัพพมังราคันตุสัพพเทวตาสัพพธัมมานุภาเวนัสทธาโสติปวันตุเตภวตุสัพพมังคลังราคันตุสัพพเทวตาสัพพสังฆานุภาเวนัสสทธาโสติภวันตุเต Now we pay respect to the triple gem together. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธภะคะวาพุทธังภะคะวันตังอภิวาเทมิ สวากขาโตภะคะวะตาธัมโมธัมมังนัมมัสสามิ สุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนะมามิ
Thank you all. This concludes this evening's Dhamma Talk. And if anyone would like to know more about Ajahn, we have the YouTube link where he has many of his Dhamma Talks, and also his website where you can find out more about where he teaches and where he resides. Tomorrow we'll be hearing from Bhikkhuni from Vietnam, Sister Leo Pap, and she will be live streaming from Vietnam. So she will be joining us at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Please join us. Thank you.